Okay, and I'm just assisting somebody who is trying to get into the meeting, so 1 second. Okay, well, hopefully she's able to sign in. I gave her the information, so we'll start our group now. Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to God is Study Group, where ultimately our purpose is to learn to take each step forward in love and ask ourselves, what would we be doing if we knew that an infinite source of unconditional love was flowing through us and to us, guiding us with affirmative directive in every given moment. So we have been and are continuing to explore the 12 steps, one step at a time, through the book titled God Realization, Learn to Listen to the Voice of Love, the Gospel of Reverend Phil. So 2 weeks ago or so, we reviewed step 10. We continue to set our intentions to align our thoughts, emotions, and actions with our spiritual beliefs. And when our awareness informed us of our inconsistencies, we gently intervened on ourselves. We can do this through the understanding and implementation of Reverend Phil's IAI technique, short for intervention, awareness, and intention, awareness, and intervention. And you can upload the worksheet on Reverend Phil's website at churchoftheonegod.org. And then locate the tool tab on the drop down and click on IAI. So today we will be reviewing and discussing step 11. We sought through prayer and meditation to advance our conscious communication with God as we understood God, pursuing only the knowledge of God's will for us and the willingness to carry that out. So with that, I'll hand over the virtual mic to Reverend Phil. And Phil, would you introduce us to this step and tell us why it's important in the process of recovery?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
If you're coming in awfully low.
I am?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll turn down the volume a little bit.
You sound fine to me, Kirsten.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe your setting isn't good.
Okay, so Reverend Phil, we can hear you. You want to introduce us to the 11th step?
I'm not clear as to what you're saying, but let's assume you're asking me to open it up.
Yes.
Hold on.
Well, maybe I could get your sound up.
My sound is up high.
Oh, okay. Well, I can hear Kristen fine.
Okay. Kirsten, say something.
Something.
Say it again.
Something. So we were talking about the 11th step in the 12-step process. We sought through prayer and meditation.
Yeah, I'm hearing you, but it's very low volume. But Glenda says she hears you clearly. So I'm not sure what's going on. Anyway, before we
Okay.
start, I got a couple of things I want to touch on. First off, Linda and I will be moving to the East Coast somewhere in November or December this year. We just put down money on a condo in a town called Bristol, Pennsylvania.
Oh,
It hasn't been built yet, so that's why we're talking about November, December. That's when they think it'll be available. Also, once we finish the 11th and the 12th step, I think it's time to end the study group. We've covered a lot of territory over the last few years, and getting the feeling of redundancy in what we are doing and saying and talking about. And it just feels like time for closure, time to move on to different things. So I just wanted to thank all of you who have been a part of this study group for the last, I don't know, it's been 4 years maybe.
yeah, 3 years, 3.5. Mhm.
It's been an honor to walk this path with you all. And I hope that some things that we have touched on or discussed has made a impact on you and has helped you make your life a better place. So with that, let's go on to the 11th step. Traditional 11th step talks about prayer and meditation in that sequence. I've changed that sequence to put meditation first and prayer second. I believe that meditation is the trigger, is the connection, is the stimulant for our spiritual growth. And therefore, place it first, as opposed to traditional, which puts prayer first and meditation second. You'll hear from people in 12 steps a lot of different structural explanations that prayer is talking to God and meditation is listening for the answer. That to me is a continuation of the Judeo-Christian background the steps were created in. Meditation teaches us to connect to ourselves, to have awareness of what am I feeling, what am I thinking, what am I doing. Prayer is basically setting an intention. Prayer is not a negotiation with divine presence. Prayer is not meant to turn the creator into a Santa Claus. If you give me this, I'll do this. Prayer is to set intention. So the simplest example I can give is the intention I set before my meditation. God, I sit here in quiet and stillness with the sole intention of connecting to you. That states my intention. And then I go into my meditation. And in my meditation, my job is to connect to my soul and bring quietness to my mind. It doesn't mean I'm going to be sitting there in complete quiet mind. The mind is not designed to be quiet. What it's designed to do is to chatter. That's the mind is the home of the shadow. So my job in meditation is to recognize when my mind is acting out, speaking out, however you want to label it, and to not allow it to take me over, to guide me to places that I do not want to go to and do not want to visit. One of the beauties of the 11th step is that beautiful word, improve. We sought through meditation and prayer to improve our conscious contact. That the process of the 12 steps is really about putting the finishing touches on the process that we have been looking at with the first 10 steps, where we identify our shadow, where we identify the counterpoint to our shadow, where we set our moral code based upon spirit, not shadow, and how we make amends to people we have harmed, and how we stay aware so we don't go back and have to repeat the amends. We are improving our conscious contact. It started in the second step where we talk about coming to believe. And that second step is the foundation of all of the steps that come after it. Without a solid second step, without a genuine belief in the presence of that entity, we don't have a program that's going to sustain us through the different aspects of our life as we're going to experience them on the path. So that basically is the 11th step. It is, and we'll get to that when we talk about the 12th step, but it is the springboard for that 12th step. It is the awareness being emphasized of the spiritual awakening that these steps are intended to produce. So let's open this up to anybody and anything, any questions, comments, criticisms, whatever.
Also, I want to say congratulations on the Pennsylvania situation. I look forward to meeting with you guys on Saturday to talk about it.
Yes, and I'm not sure what I am doing with my phone, but you're not coming in very clear. You're very low to me. Am I the only one experiencing this?
I hear her clearly.
Does somebody else want to chime in for a second?
Sure, I hear you just fine.
Okay. Does anybody have any thoughts on this step 11?
I'm going to try something. Can you say something, Kirsten?
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Oh, God, yes, that's wonderful.
Okay. So, so step 11, is the step that you say facilitates our spiritual evolutionary journey, from awakeness to God realization. And you also say that, starting with the word we, as all the previous steps do, reminds us that this is not a trek done alone.
Exactly.
So are you referring to a spiritual community? Are you referring to our connection with God, that God is always with us?
Both. We're not here to be in solitude. The solitude we experience is our meditation. But we're here to work with others, to teach others, to be taught by others, to grow in our consciousness of who we are, what we are, and where we are headed. To go back to the beginning of the book, I talk about what I believe is the ideal structure for a spiritual community. And the end of this book is about the 12 traditions, which is how do we get along as a collective? How do we work together? How do we support one another? What we do and what we don't do. So yes, the we has multiple implementations. I do this with Creator, and I do this with people of like mind and like kind.
So you also say, in this step, we are being guided to utilize meditation and prayer to be preventative instead of curative. Can you elaborate?
Setting our intention. The meditation connects us to the internal divine presence that we are. And the prayer is the affirmation of that guidance. We are here to teach ourselves how to be spiritual beings. And we do that in community. Is that answering your question?
Yeah. And so I'm looking at the book right now at the bottom of page 76. It says, the power we seek comes from within us, growing stronger as we exercise our free will to choose to listen to and act on the direction given by the internal voice of spirit, the giver of the gentle lesson. So we come to rely on this guidance that God or divine wisdom provides. And that gives us serenity, that allows us to experience serenity that you say comes with being in harmony with God's will for us.
It's a two-way street, exactly.
I mean, that's powerful stuff. And I have found that to be very true in my own life personally.
We need serenity to move forward, and moving forward gives us serenity. Is that making sense?
The moving forward being just growth and taking action based on that spiritual growth that we're experiencing.
The spiritual growth, the spiritual guidance. That goes back to the third step. We turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understood God.
And the way we understand God is it may be different because there are many paths. We were just having this discussion last night, actually, at dinner.
The more that we walk that path, that statement, the narrower the path becomes. The higher up we get on the mountain, the less choices we have, so to speak, because we've committed to a journey.
Yeah. That's right. And there's something that provides like a sense of inner peace and knowing what that journey is. Or knowing what the will of God for us is, and that can change.
That's where the fourth step through the ninth step come in. That helps us define, as best as our understanding can give us, God's will for us. The third step asks us to turn our life and basically turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understood God. Our will is the power behind our actions. Our life is the result of those actions. That's an awesome power. What guides that power? Well,
Yeah.
that's where the fourth step comes in. The power is guided by our connection to divine presence guiding us. So when we ask for help, we've opened up the doorway for the help to be submitted. And the fourth step, do a searching and fearless moral inventory.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So,
we're
go ahead.
here to, that's what we create. What do I believe is God's will for me? And then I implement it. I commit to the implementation in the fifth, the sixth, and seventh. Basically, is about me holding to the course that I have just committed to. And how do I get myself back on track if I'm starting to get off track? 8, 9 is about correcting the harm as best as we can that we have done in the beginning of the steps. We come to recognize how selfish I have been and how much harm that self-centeredness has caused. And we make a commitment to others, to society, to our higher power, to not basically repeat the things that we are making amends for. Then we get to 10, and 10 is just basically keeping ourselves in check, walking our talk, that we have to be in the moment to be aware of what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what we're about to do or are doing. All of that clears out the selfish parts of me that I walked into this congregation with. And now that I've got that definition from the fourth step of what God's will for me is, I turn to the 11th step, and now it's time for me to commit to taking my program, my studies, my spiritual understandings to the next level. And that next level is the 11th step. Is that making sense?
Yeah. How are other people feeling in here about this as we discuss it? Anybody want to chime in for a minute? Because I'm looking at so the step 11 worksheet. And so the second step, it says the ego and the self-will is our default state of being. Which is why, you say in the morning, having a morning routine of connecting with God first. And part of that is setting the intention.
Exactly. I am not here to tell God give me a car, give me this relationship, give me money, give me whatever. I am here to commit my being to the oneness of the connection with the divine presence. It's always been there. That's why the word improve in the 11th step is so important. I've always had that connection. That's part of the discovery we make in the second step. I am now committing to a stronger, clearer, cleaner demonstration of that connection. I am aware that it's always there with me. It's not something I need to go find. I just need to turn my focus and my attention to it. And I do that through meditation and prayer.
So this is, we're talking about the high, I mean, in AA or 12-step program, higher self. But it's such it could be kind of convoluted the way, because it's still keeping the self, using the word self in there. You know, I think that, like, for me personally, this step has been this and 1 through 3. I mean, all of them has been the one thing that has really made a difference in my life, and part of it has been surrendering. There's been self-acceptance, and then surrendering what fears, let's say, from the shadow that may creep into my daily reality, let's say, maybe based on old beliefs. Surrendering that to God or to the higher self has made all the difference in the world, really.
That's the transformative power of the steps. And
Yeah.
it's not one step, it's 12 steps. Each one of them
Yeah.
built on the step before it or 2 steps before it. So like the 11th step really builds on the cumulative work we've done on all the steps. The 11th step does not just connect us to the 3rd step, for instance, where it shares common verbiage with. That's not the full power of that 11th step. It connects us back to the 2nd step. It takes us back to the 1st step, which if we re-engage in the behavior we discovered and renounced in the 1st step, then the gifts we are getting become diluted, become negated. The steps are a body of work. They're not individuals that just happen to come together. They cross-pollinate, so to speak, from front to back and from back to front. And that's what makes them so powerful.
So, working in, a clinical practice setting where it's very much based on conventional treatment, efficacy-based models, things like that. Many of the techniques can help as interventions. But sometimes I find, because people will ask like, well, what did you do? Or, and it's difficult sometimes because I'm not able to bring this step into the process of in the therapeutic context, which is to me the most important. Is that making sense?
We are talking about a journey and where an individual is on their journey. You talk about interventions and you talk about looking at behaviors. That's the first step.
Right.
People need to admit, again, the first step, what they have been doing and the futility of it. So we don't
Right.
call we don't call it step 1, step 2, step 3. But in essence, that's what we're doing. We are taking an individual who comes to us with problems, and we gently guide them to an understanding that the common denominator of their problems is themselves. And that's the first step. Now we get get funky with the second and the third step, because people think that when you talk about God, you're talking about religion, but that's not the case. So what we need to do is have a presentation that guides people into an understanding of the difference between spirituality and religion. And helps them understand that their beliefs are their beliefs. They don't have to conform their beliefs to anybody else's. That's the second step. Power greater than ourselves. And again, that's why the steps start with the we. It's always a collective. So we also get involved in what could be called group therapy. Unfortunately, that gets a little confusing, but we start to realize through the work with others that we are not terminally unique. So the therapeutic model is a simplification of a spiritual model. And it's there basically as a first step to intervene on behaviors that are not, and they don't have to be substance abuse. Any behavior qualifies.
Right. Right. Okay. And making the personal inventory, that's part of it too. But it really does start with the first step. So, but I mean, it would be what a cool thing to see if there was a treatment model where it took in all of this as part of the recovery. Different tiers of treatment along the way.
Well, that's what the 12 steps are about. We don't need to recreate them. We've already got them gifted to us.
True.
You know,
Yeah.
there is an argument that could be made that the 12 steps are evidence-based, that they are as effective, as healing and curative as any therapeutic model.
Yes.
It's not happened because the therapeutic community is trying to justify their existence. The 12-step model does not require people to make large or any kind of donations. Does not require people to do certain things.
No insurance is involved.
Exactly.
Right. But it provides that social structure, that sense of oneness. You know, I think from my perspective, it's individuals that I meet with have experience. A lot of them have like comorbidities, including social anxiety. Let's say that's just right. I mean, some of them go into detox and they have the schizophrenia and they start on the medication, all that, but social anxiety. And so to step into a 12-step meeting where they don't have to engage, but they can observe and listen to other people speak about their experience is such a powerful thing. Because as you said, they recognize at that moment that they're not alone in this, they're not terminally ill.
And they are not terminally unique.
Terminally unique, yeah. Which is often the cause for addiction is a feeling of isolation and loneliness. So that sense of reconnection with community is a big part of it.
And if executed properly, the community demonstrates unconditional love. There's a saying that
Right.
you'll sometimes hear at meetings, we don't shoot our wounded. That they can
Right.
relapse in any behavior that they're trying not to replicate, and they're just welcome back. And the collective is happy to have them back. And we don't get judgmental as a collective. There'll probably be individuals who judge it.
Yeah. And that's often what some individuals are fearful of, is that judgment, perceived judgment by others.
No, it's that perceived judgment by themselves that they transfer to others.
Yes. Right. That's right.
So then,
But they may not be aware of that. And so for somebody to point that out can make a big difference. They can
and
say,
people
oh,
point that out when they talk about themselves. They don't discuss other people per se. They talk about their own experience, their strength, and their hope. So somebody can come to a meeting and basically not have to say anything and hear their life story being told by somebody else, to know that that individual is sharing honestly their own life story. They're not just creating fiction to make this individual feel good or look good or feel better.
And members, who attend the meetings kind of in their own time, are given that gift to figure that out or see that.
It's all part of the dynamic of the meeting. That's why they have open sharing. There is no topic that cannot be presented. And depending upon the level of pain being presented, there is a basic understanding of allowing somebody the time they need to meet themselves without hijacking the meeting that they're meeting themselves in.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Huh. So the conversation on God can come into play too. And that's, I think, one of the highlights of the 12-step meetings.
Well, that's what this, excuse me, that's what the second step is all about. We came to believe. So we can talk about basically what hasn't worked for us, but we don't promote what does work for us. We talk about it generically. That we share our experience, strength, and hope. So somebody can be totally praising the power of meditation, but they don't praise Buddha, they don't praise Krishna. We're not here to promote anything externally. That's that's one of the traditions that come at the end of the book. But that doesn't stop an individual from hearing something, and then after the meeting is over, going over to the person who shared and ask for more information, ask for clarity. I could share something at a meeting, and I won't share that this is the book I've written, or this is another book that somebody else has written. Just that these are basic spiritual principles. And if somebody comes over to me at the end of the meeting, when it's over, and asks for more information, I can then give them more information. But I don't do that in the meeting. We don't promote anybody or anything other than ourselves. We're not here to create industries.
And so how does that um, process or idea alone impact the healing process for an individual?
They don't have to accept certain labels in order to be a participant.
Okay.
You know,
Mhm.
what would happen if somebody comes into a therapeutic group that is talking about motivational interviewing and starts talking about cognitive behavioral therapy? That would be probably gently or sometimes not so gently told, we don't deal with this, you need to find another place. Twelve-step model does not do that. It doesn't say you can't have a belief. It just says we ask you not to promote your belief. The 12 traditions are very simple. They're not as complex as the steps are. So the part of the book that follows will just very basically give an explanation of what a tradition is, what it says, why it says it, and how do you practice it. And it's the ability to implement that that allows the structure to function the way it does.
So the 12 steps is a very, I think, logical but powerful and spiritual at the same time process. And it has helped a lot of people. I don't know what the statistics are for maintained recovery, but I do question why. Well, actually, I want to say this first. To me, after working the 12 steps with you, it's become more like the 12 principles for life in a way. And the limitation of the 12-step meetings, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, etc., is that it's limited to people who struggle with a substance abuse issue.
Anything qualifies for the first step. So there are 12-step fellowships on overeating, on gambling, on sex. There are Emotions Anonymous fellowship. I don't know if I don't think they have one anymore in Santa Fe. Used to be. Codependent Anonymous.
What was it, Reverend Phil? What did you say it was? What was the name of it?
Emotions Anonymous.
Emotions Anonymous. Okay.
They used to have, I think it was 2 meetings a week here, but they have since, as far as I know, disappeared from Santa Fe. But you could find their meetings in big cities. Any behavior is capable of being put into the first step. the problem you have is nicotine. We admitted that we were powerless over nicotine. It's made our lives unmanageable. The first step is the place where people basically find out they are not terminally unique. In the book, God Realization, one of the things I talk about is what I believe I hear you saying is we need a graduate course in 12 steps in order
Yeah.
for start bringing more people in together. That to have a group focused solely on one particular or two particular behaviors shortchanges the individuals who are practicing. They get caught up in this is what I'm here for, and this is what I deal with. And that doesn't serve the overall population. But, it's an evolutionary process, and who knows where it'll wind up.
When you say a graduate course, are you literally talking about like a master's course or something? Or are you speaking of the latter steps and the 12 steps?
Yes, that you bring in people who have had years of specific behavioral recovery, and now it's time to change the focus, upgrade the focus, maybe spend more time talking about meditation and techniques than talking about consumptional behaviors. That people don't have to experience, for lack of a better term, the staleness of a singularly focused 12-step group.
So you're a step beyond, shifting beyond step like 1 through 3, basically.
Well, beyond one. One is the only step really that discusses and identifies behavior. The other 11 steps are about the solution, the correction, the healing of that behavior.
Well, I don't know if insurance would cover something like that because it's not quote unquote evidence-based. How can you quantify, our relationship with God and being of service to others and meditation as part of how do you measure that,
Because you're helping people. And it doesn't need insurance companies' validation or pharmaceutical companies' validation. There is no charge. You want to make a donation when the basket goes around, you can, but if you don't, you don't.
So in a way, are you referring to a 12-step meeting that focuses on the latter steps and the 12 steps?
Yeah.
Okay.
There used to be an 11-step, and maybe there still is, an 11-step meeting that was held at St. Vincent's in the big conference room. It was a Friday night meeting. and they would get 60, 70, 80 people. And the topic was purely 11 step. And it was, newcomers could show up, but it was basically for old timers who were looking to enhance the spiritual aspects of their recovery.
Hmm. Okay. I mean, how do you initiate a 12-step meeting like that? I guess that's a different question, but for another time.
You put it out there. You could do it
Just curious.
book, you could do it through Craigslist, you could do it through word of mouth. You find the facility that will support you. You place a notice in the classified sections and you start spreading the word.
Okay, well, that's a wonderful thought, and yeah, I mean, I agree with that it could be helpful. So, wonderful discussion today. Thank you so much. And we are at 10:03. So if anybody has any comments or questions about our discussion today, you're welcome to chime in. And just go ahead and unmute yourself if you'd like to. Otherwise, we will be meeting for next week, next Sunday, and discussing the 12th step, being of service. So, Reverend Phil, what might be some good homework for this? You have the worksheet in God Realization. I could send that out. I'll send that out today if you guys would like to take a look at that. Any kind of brief, I guess meditation in the morning, anything you'd suggest particularly for this step?
The 12th step is the cumulative teaching of the 12 steps. So to look at our lives in the context of the first 11 steps will give us an indication of what needs to be done and what doesn't need to be done in order to implement the 12th step. Using the outline, the description from the book is helpful. That's why I wrote it.
Okay, wonderful. And we have the link to the book on the YouTube channel. Highly recommended. And take care, everybody. God bless.
Okay.
And we'll see you soon.
Be blessed,
you.
everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.